Morning, everybody. This is Matt Webster again, back with my Christian Journey series. Today, I want to talk about a character from a show called Beast Wars, and its sequel series called Beast Machines. This is a Transformer series. Now, there's a lot of things I can go into about like how God speaks through this. Uh, Main one I'll hit right off the back is the transformative nature of like how you change when you start coming to God, and a lot of it is like things with that in mind, you have to kind of want these changes. They're not just changes that just happen. Um, Being the transformative nature, you have to put in the work with it. Um, I'll leave that part to that. Now, with characters on my list, there were certain qualities and things that I admired about these characters. And as far as this one goes, he's from the second season. His name is Silverbolt. Um, this is Silverbolt right here. Actually, when they re-released these characters like a couple years ago into the toy line, I went and got two of this one. One to open up and transform on my shelf into his beast form, which is a wolf eagle. It's a really unique thing. He's got a Native American aesthetic. Um, Part of that is that I grew up, we're part Native in my family, which is kind of cool. But this character also had a very knight-like essence to him. When he's first found in the series, he's found by the villains. They're called the Predacons, and they do this thing where they have a phrase that they have to say to transform. Maximals is you say the name of the transformer, so Silverbolt maximize, or if you're a Predacon, you say Silverbolt terrorize. Um, when he's first found, he's found by them, and they tell him to terrorize, and he even says that the words don't sound right coming off of his mouth. That there's something foul about it, and everyone keeps telling him he's gonna get used to it. Well, you find out that he's got more of an honor code, and he lives more for justice and good nature and stuff. Well, Silverbolt's kind of a over the top character, um, which is funny because in a lot of ways I already had these qualities kind of in myself, I suppose. Uh, I tend to be very over the top with friends and stuff. Sometimes I run around and annoy my boss for the fun of it by singing songs and give people nicknames to where they just shake their heads, which is funny. Sometimes they get me back with nicknames. But Silverbolt had a lot of admirable qualities. Uh, he was steadfast in justice, so much so that a lot of times he didn't see that there was a moral gray area, which changes throughout the series, um, which I'll get to in a moment because there's a lot to unpack with his character initially. So, in Beast Wars, the first series before Beast Machines, Silverbolt is very much so hard headed, I guess is a good way of putting it, with his over the topness and constant devote to justice. Even so much so when he meets Black Arachnia, who is they're one of the few couples in Transformers. But Black Arachnia starts off on the villain side, much like Silverbolt. Granted, his change was very much so quick and immediate because he just didn't like the Predacons, and he didn't really like their way of doing things. He didn't like that whole evil. He was about justice. Well, Black Arachnia is very much so, kind of very much so villainous. The bad girl, the wanting to do whatever she wants to do for herself kind of thing. But that slowly changes because her and Silverbolt, she's captured him a couple times and like had him probably dead to rights, but his love for her, because he falls in love with her almost immediately. Um, and she's kind of initially annoyed by him, but then there's something about his weird nature and his straightforwardness and just the way he is that I guess it entrances her, much like he's entranced by her. Um, there's like this going back and forth rivalry, almost like a competition, to where she eventually falls in love with him. Now, Silverbolt's also seen as kind of a bit of a simp, which I think is funny because I've been called that enough in my life to be disgusted by it. Um, but he genuinely does show affection and love Black Arachnia, even so much so that it annoys the other Maximals, who are basically like, "Hey, bro, you need to give us up. She's a villain. What are you thinking?" And he's over here like, "No, but I love her," kind of stuff. Fun fact about my life is I've often been that guy, and I'm not at all disappointed or upset by it. In fact, I tend to see good qualities in people even when others don't, and I remain very true to my own beliefs and my own cores. I don't let other people persuade me or try to change my mind. In fact, I often buck the system and buck the rules for people because of the fact that I don't really care much what other people think, to be honest. I think as I've gotten older, I just stopped caring as much in general about what other people thought, just because I realize life is too short and sometimes you can't always go by the rules, especially the rules of man, rules of society. Um, I'm definitely one of the people that, as much as I believe in an honor code system, I don't think honor necessarily implies following rules that don't work for everybody. And sometimes you have to go outside those rules, which is something Silverbolt did quite a bit. Optimus Primal, the main character, the leader of the team, often would get frustrated with Silverbolt for this exact thing. He would go off on his own and do his own thing, especially when Black Arachnia was involved. Um, One of my favorite things about this character too is he even had a cute little, almost like kind of pet name for her. And he had a phrase, and it was, "Oh, the dark poison of my heart, my love." Um, I know a lot of girls really, really love the White Knight type, and I think Silverbolt does a really good job of encapsulating that. Um, that and just the aesthetic in general, being a wolf and an eagle. He kind of has this solemn nature, like almost like a lone wolf. But then he's also got the wings of an eagle, which I think is kind of cool because you can fly away. Um, Now going further into his character, eventually when Black Arachnia does join, the two of them are able to like cooperate better, do things more together. Um, Even so much so by the end of Beast Wars, when they're trying to go back to Cybertron, all the Maximals. Eventually, what happens is they land on Cybertron, and the planet's completely been taken over by Megatron, and a lot of the Maximals were captured. There's only four of them that weren't. Silverbolt was one of them. He gets turned into a character called Jetstream. At first, no one realizes that it's him, except I think Black Arachnia, and she wants to go rescue him, and Optimus convinces her not to. Well, for a while there, he's a villain whose mind's been corrupted and all that, to a point of where, like, later in that series, what happens is she finally does capture him and get him back and uncorrupts him. So much so to the point that now his mind's been shattered because his whole code of justice and everything's been broken. He's no longer this white knight. He's got a lot of moral gray, and it leads him to being kind of in a pitfall of like, how can I even pretend to be the good guy when I was the bad guy for this time being? He genuinely felt like a monster because he'd fallen into the darkness. I thought that was kind of interesting because it kind of showcases the transformative power of love. Because you got a character who believes so devotedly in transformative properties being corrupted, but he's saved by the very woman who he once believed could be changed. And not only does she believe he can be changed, but she was the reason why he was able to change back. The reason why he was able to become the good guy that she knew he always was. Um, by the end of the series, their love is very absolute, and they finally get to live in peace, and it's no longer this fight. And I thought a lot about that my own, for myself too. I feel like for a long time I've been trying to fight the system and fight this war inside my own head, and constantly looking to help other people before I help myself. And I'll say this. One thing I've learned over this past year is that sometimes it's alright to lean on other people. It's not something I do particularly well, and the people around me, I've noticed a lot of them don't do well either. And we're kind of having to all learn together how not to be so self dependent and how to rely on other people. And in another way, that's also good because it can highlight something else that God does. When you stop relying so much on your own self and you start relying on what God can do for you, which people don't really, I think, understand this. Sometimes relying on God's strength is relying on other people and relying on the fact that you're human. You're going to need other people around you. You're going to need other people to help you. Um, Now, I'm really picky. I'm choosy about who I let help and who I want to help at this point. Most of that's because, like, I kind of know from experience what I need, and I know what my friends need from time to time. But I've gotten to a point where even they've recognized when I need something, and it's kind of made me a lot less self-dependent. Even so much so that my best friend, who was also very self-dependent, is now not doing that. We're all learning that we can work together and build something. Going back to this character though, Silverbolt stopped being so self-reliant and wound up leaning more on Black Arachne because he realized that she always had his best interest, and that love was the love that freed both of them. Anyways, I hope this message finds you all well. This was a fun character for me, and this is a bit of a shorter video compared to some of my other ones. There's a lot that I can say about this character. I just honestly think this character is a fantastic character. Um, Never would have guessed that a children's TV show would have such deep, powerful meanings to something in my life, and just want to kind of just showcase how God can use even something so simple. Anyways, I hope this video finds you guys well.